The girl everyone warned me about ended up saving my life. When I transferred to Marlowe High for my senior year, everyone gave me the same warning within the first week. Stay away from Raina. It didn't matter who I asked. The volleyball girls couldn't stand her. The drama kids avoided her. Even a couple of teachers seemed to brace themselves whenever her name came up. She's nothing but trouble, one girl told me at lunch. She'll drag you into her drama and ruin your reputation, said another. Naturally, I assumed they were exaggerating. High school has a way of turning ordinary people into villains. Then I actually met Raina. The first thing she ever said to me was, "You're new, so a heads up. The guy sitting behind you tells every new girl the same 3 jokes and then asks for her number. Don't fall for it." She said it loud enough that he heard, and his face went red, and the whole table went quiet. Raina just smiled like she'd performed a public service. Over the next couple of months, I watched her do this constantly. She called out people who were lying, exposed a guy who was cheating on his girlfriend, refused to laugh along with jokes she thought were cruel. Nobody trusted her because she always seemed to be at the center of some conflict. And slowly people stopped inviting me anywhere because I kept sitting with her. Maybe she's just honest, I'd argue. Maybe she's just difficult, they'd reply. One afternoon, I finally asked her straight out why she did it. Why she picked fights with basically everyone. She poked at her food for a second and then shrugged. People deserve to know the truth about who's around them, she said. It wasn't much of an answer, but it was all she gave me. And then, a few weeks later, something happened that flipped my whole world upside down. My father was arrested. I won't get into the details, but overnight, my family's name became the town's favorite topic. By Monday morning, everyone knew. People whispered when I walked by. Friends stopped answering my texts. One girl literally stood up and switched seats when I sat next to her. It felt like my entire life had collapsed in a single weekend. At lunch, I sat alone, staring at a tray I couldn't eat, until Raina dropped hers down across from me. "You good?" she asked. "Do I look good?" I said. She glanced around the cafeteria at all the people watching and judging, and then she stood up on the bench and announced loudly, "If anybody here has something to say about her, say it to her face." The room went dead silent. Nobody said a word. Raina nodded, sat back down, and started eating her fries like nothing had happened. For the first time all year, someone had stood beside me when it was hard. Not easy. That night, she texted me 4 words. "I know how it feels." I called her, and for the first time, she told me the truth about herself. When she was 14, her older brother had been arrested, and the entire town had treated her family like criminals. People she'd known her whole life stopped speaking to her. Parents told their kids to keep their distance. Teachers looked at her differently, so she made a decision. If everyone was going to assume the worst about her anyway, she'd stop caring what any of them thought. The sharp tongue, the calling people out, the constant conflict, none of it was confidence. It was armor. She'd spent years bracing for the world to hurt her again, so she hit first. She told me she used to cry about it almost every night for a year, and then one day she simply decided she was done being blindsided by people leaving. If she expected betrayal from everyone, then no one could ever catch her off guard again. It was a miserable way to live, and she knew it, but it had kept her on her feet. After that conversation, everything about her made sense. Over the next year, we became inseparable. She helped me survive the hardest stretch of my life, and slowly, she stopped fighting everyone. Because for once, she had someone in her corner too. Last month, we celebrated 10 years of friendship. At dinner, someone asked how we met, and I laughed and said, "Everyone told me to stay away from her." Raina nearly choked on her drink, then raised her glass and said, "Good thing she never listens." And honestly, ignoring that warning is still the best decision I've ever made.